So there have been several Pro Bowl snubs. What is the biggest snub to you?
Yeah, well, also I'm gonna shoehorn in a rant about the
Let's
how
go.
important the Pro Bowl is to fifth year options and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
We'll get that later. The biggest one for me, I think, is Antoine Winfield. Also, this is where my job is funny. Like he probably should be replacing Buda Baker, and I get that's the name he kind of targeted. They share an agent, so I think it's kind of funny that like his dad is going after Buda Baker and like all these things, and it's like, hey, like it's all in the family. Let's relax here. But to me, it is Antoine Winfield. I mean, I think he has been just remarkably dynamic in all three facets of football play. Has 5 sacks on the year, a bunch of pressures when they do bring him, which isn't that often. Can play in the deep third, can come down to the box and make plays, can play in the slot, not as much as last year, been more of a deep free safety, but he can do everything. And he has done everything at a super high level. And then just as a run defender, simply just, running the alley and just getting in the muck and coming in and making plays. He's been exceptional this year.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely one of them. I agree. Winfield's been arguably the best safety in the NFL this year. I would absolutely put him in there. One of the guys I think is definitely a snub is Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe kind of gets forgotten about in that ridiculous 49ers offense with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. But Brandon Aiyuk has the second highest PFF grade amongst receivers this year. Only Tyreek Hill has a better grade than him. He's averaging over 18 yards per catch. He's got 1,300 yards. Brandon Aiyuk has been an absolute monster for the 49ers and is completely overlooked, apparently.
Or like the first 8 weeks of the season where every single catch of his was either a first down or a touchdown. Like he just gets, I think, lost in the shuffle of how good, Trent Williams and George Kittle are both
Right.
on there. I want to say, obviously McCaffrey's on there. I don't think Debo made it, so I guess neither. But, it's just like there are so many elite talents on that team. But yeah, he's no question deserving. One more I'll throw out there, kind of I don't know. Maybe he didn't deserve it this year, but I think it's kind of crazy. Like Tristan Wirfs to me is kind of a guy who just should make it every single season, and he pivots over to left tackle. And look, it's Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, and Penei Sewell. I get it, but still an 83 pass block grade at a new position. Still top I think 10 in pressure rate allowed among tackles. Again, playing on a different side of the line. He's just it's remarkable what he's done. He probably shouldn't care because he's already made it enough times to juice out his fifth-year option, and his extension now is going to be a left tackle deal. I would assume it'll reset the market by a comfortable margin.
Let's go quarterback. The AFC quarterbacks. Josh Allen is not on this roster. Now, it's actually a tougher argument than you would think it is when you look at the AFC. They've got Tua, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes as the three quarterbacks. I don't think, even though the stats aren't as good, I don't think the Mahomes thing is crazy. I think he's actually had a way better season than his stats would suggest. But I do think that Josh Allen has been better. And I think in particular, when you factor in that absolute stinker that Mahomes had against Vegas recently, that really dragged his grade down. And I think made it a clear victory in Josh Allen's favor as opposed to one that maybe you would err slightly in the Josh Allen direction. Like I think that was effectively the game that Josh Allen had in week one. It finally sort of averaged him out, and Mahomes got dragged way down. So Josh Allen not being on the roster, I think, is a mistake.
I think the timing is interesting too of the voting where like the Dallas game, you look back at it and say, oh, they won despite Josh Allen not doing anything. Like he's had a couple games recently where, the run game has been the focal point. He's been timely with his production, but it hasn't been, we're watching him run around like crazy. I know he has the 15 rushing touchdowns and all those things. And also, everyone's always going to look at the turnovers with him, even though I'm sure his turnover worthy play rate is down from years past. The funny thing too is the way they sort these things where like all linebackers are sorted by sacks, including off-ball linebackers. When you go on the website, like they don't even try to make the fan voting even remotely, tied to actual production.
No, I mean, okay, it wouldn't be a PFF podcast if we didn't at least address the elephant in the room when we come to discuss Pro Bowls, which is the system is an absolute and total joke. Why is it still being folded into contracts as much as it is, given how completely farcical it is?
That's the thing that's crazy to me. I mean, this is a new development in the most recent CBA where these fifth-year options for first-round picks are now can get elevated based on Pro Bowls, and it's a massive, massive jump. And there were some guys that got a sizable bump. I mentioned Penei Sewell. His fifth-year option now should be about $3.5 million more than it would have been coming into this year. So that's awesome for him. Guys like Pat Surtain, Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase have maxed it out. 2 Pro Bowls over the first 3 years is the best you can do. But yeah, I mean, if you're a guy like, in a smaller market or you're not big into self promotion or whatever the case may be, you're potentially losing out on several $1,000,000 on this fifth year option simply, for dumb reasons. I have no clue why the NFLPA would agree to this being a mechanism. And even look, I like the playtime escalator. I think it's smart to have some escalators and stuff like that. I get it. But the playtime escalator is also position agnostic, which is funny, where it's like, I'm not going to go through the dynamic, but an offensive lineman playing 80% of snaps is a down year. A running back playing 80% of snaps in today's NFL is an outlier. There's just so much that's so dumb about it. But yeah, if I was a player or an agent, I'd be pushing back on it. I think it's kind of insane. But that's where we're at.
It's also wildly open to manipulation. If you have a team, the system is such a mess that if you have a team that has a rabid fan base, that has a good social media presence, that team can get a guy on the Pro Bowl essentially just by running a Heisman campaign for that guy, right? They can put people on the Pro Bowl simply by mobilizing their fan base, getting them to vote, getting it all in. And okay, the vote is only a percentage now as opposed to the whole thing, but it's still very doable. You can get a guy in the Pro Bowl by creating a campaign, even if he shouldn't really be there. But that also means if you don't do that, you can have a guy not make the Pro Bowl simply by not pushing for it, right? And given that he might have a contract bonus attached to that, why would you? If you're a team and you have a guy who has a bonus attached to a Pro Bowl, hey, how about we not push the pedal to the metal with this guy's Pro Bowl Twitter campaign? Let's just back off a little bit and see what happens.
It is funny. It depends probably on the GM and the building, though. I would tell you most GMs probably think me being able to say I've drafted X players that have made X Pro Bowls is worth infinitely more than I have to pay this guy a couple extra million. But no, I remember the first thing I said when this rule came out, the joke I made was I'm a Bears fan. I was like, all right, everybody vote for Jair Alexander for the Pro Bowl. Everybody vote for Rashawn Gary for the Pro Bowl. Let's cook the books in Green Bay a little bit. I mean, the fan vote I know is a small percentage, but it just is. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. All Pro is always a better list. There are fewer players, so maybe you include second team. I don't know what you do, but I mean, again, it doesn't matter until 2031 anyway. But yeah, it's just another interesting decision by the NFLPA.
Absolutely. One other player I want to talk about as being a snub, Bernhard Raimann, offensive tackle for the Colts. Really, really good second year, grading well in both facets of the game. His tape is interesting because he's got a lot of just about hanging on. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it ugly tape because it's working. It's just, he's right on the ragged edge sometimes, but he's doing it. I would have, obviously Laramie Tunsil deserves to be there, but I think you could make a case for Raimann being there above Deion Dawkins. You could probably make a case for him above Teron Armstead as well, given how much time Teron Armstead misses in any given season and has missed this year. So Raimann, I think, deserves a spot on the Pro Bowl in the AFC at tackle, probably in favor of one of those two tackles.
Yeah, Armstead, love the guy, legend, but this year, respectfully, probably shouldn't be on there. I'll throw one more in too. Then it's funny. The guy, I don't know if he has any Pro Bowls, maybe one, and he is. I think he might be if we look back on history of the target share and receiving yardage share, and just how much they elevated the quarterback they're playing with. I mean, DJ Moore is now playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with. And that's still in an offense where they're going to throw for 3,500 yards in 2023 in the NFL. If Tyson Bagent doesn't come in and play 4 games, I think DJ Moore probably makes the Pro Bowl. Because you look at his production, he has most yards of his career over 1,300. I think he has 9 touchdowns in those 4 games. He did very little, which obviously was not his fault. But just tough, just tough for that guy. He's balling out. He's having fun. He's living in a wonderful city. He takes a jab at Carolina every chance he gets. So I think he's happy, but probably deserved a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the NFC wide receiver one is a real gauntlet. That's tough because you've got, like in that list, you've got CeeDee Lamb, who's amazing, definitely deserves to be there. You got Puka Nacua, who's going to probably break the rookie record, put up insane numbers. And then the other two guys that you would say, well, those are the two most vulnerable ones, are A.J. Brown, who's put up almost 1,500 yards and at times has taken over for the Eagles and been the reason they've won games. And then Mike Evans, who currently leads the NFL in receiving touchdowns and might do that for the first time in his career. So you'd be like, in order to make the case, and we've already done it, that Brandon Aiyuk deserves to be there, your case is essentially that the guy that's leading the league in touchdown catches shouldn't be a Pro Bowler from the NFC. Like, he's not one of the four best receivers in his own conference, which I think is probably true, but is not the easiest argument to make. And in all the ways where, the public sometimes gets it wrong, this is a pretty understandable one.
Yeah, no, there's always context too, though. I mean, Baker's been good, but the Bucs lead the NFL in run, pass drives. They obviously, again, Baker's been good, but it's not like he's playing with Patrick Mahomes out there. So, yeah, hard to take Mike Evans off. That is the thing. It's more, I think, when I say snub, the position allocations are also kind of crazy for how many guys per position make it on there. Maybe there should be more than 3 receivers for each team. We didn't even mention, I know he missed half the year, but we didn't even mention Justin Jefferson or some other guys that probably should be perennial Pro Bowlers as well.
All right. So as of every other year, the Pro Bowl is a mess. There are many snubs, there are many bad picks, and instead, as Brad said, you should wait for the All-Pro team, which has me as a voter and is therefore correct.